Harvard University has launched a new legal challenge against the federal government, filing a lawsuit in response to the abrupt cancellation of its authority to enroll international students. The move came after the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, revoked Harvard's participation in the Student and Exchange Visitor Program, a decision the university argues is unlawful. In its court filing, Harvard claims the government's action is retaliation for the university's refusal to comply with political demands aimed at influencing its internal policies, academic programming, and faculty perspectives. The university is now seeking a temporary restraining order to halt the revocation, citing serious disruptions to programs and research initiatives that rely on students holding F1 and J1 visas. This decision has upended countless academic departments and student-led research efforts overnight, the university's legal motion states. Immediate judicial intervention is required to prevent further harm. According to DHS, the order forces Harvard to stop admitting international students, while those currently enrolled must either transfer or risk losing their legal status in the United States. Harvard's lawsuit contends that the federal action effectively targets a quarter of its student population. University President Alan Garber reassured the Harvard community that the institution will defend its international students. "You are essential members of our academic family," he said. "We will do everything we can to ensure Harvard remains a welcoming place for the world's brightest minds." The lawsuit names the Departments of Homeland Security, Justice, and State, along with several senior officials, as defendants. Federal officials defended the government's stance, arguing that enrolling foreign students is a privilege, not a right, and accusing universities of using international tuition to bolster their endowments. They maintain that changes to the visa program are about restoring common sense, and are confident the administration's position will hold up in court. A federal judge appointed under a previous administration has been assigned to the case and will soon decide whether to temporarily block the government's decision. Harvard University continues to push back against a federal decision that could bar thousands of international students from attending the institution, warning that the damage could be lasting unless the courts act swiftly. "There's no substitute for the presence and contributions of these students," said Harvard Vice Provost for International Affairs Mark Elliott in a court affidavit. He cautioned that future generations of students may now view Harvard as a risky option unless the court steps in to reverse the government's move. Harvard argues that the termination of its Student and Exchange Visitor Program, SEVP, certification is part of a broader campaign by the federal government to pressure the university into giving up its First Amendment rights. This, according to the university, includes efforts to freeze funding and now even threats to revoke its tax-exempt status. The timing of the decision has sent shockwaves through Harvard's global student body. Just as international students were preparing to begin their studies, many now find themselves in limbo. One prospective student from New Zealand described the moment as a heart drop. The action stems from Harvard's alleged failure to provide student conduct records demanded by the Department of Homeland Security, DHS. However, the university insists it submitted the requested data and says the government never explained why its response was deemed insufficient or cited any regulation to support the revocation. The university also contends that it was given no chance to defend itself or challenge the decision before its SEVP certification was withdrawn. DHS has now demanded 5 years' worth of conduct records to be turned over within 72 hours for Harvard to regain its certification, a condition the university says lacks any legal grounding. The sudden move jeopardizes the academic standing of nearly 7,000 international students and could severely impact research, instruction, and cultural diversity on campus. Faculty warn the potential departure of so many students could erode Harvard's academic excellence. The controversy escalated further after a White House statement criticized Harvard's leadership, accusing the university of allowing anti-American and extremist ideologies to take root. The administration reiterated its position that admitting international students is a privilege, not a right. Tensions between Harvard University and the Trump administration have reached new heights as the university fights to maintain its independence amid mounting federal pressure. Officials are demanding sweeping changes to Harvard's campus policies, programming, hiring, and admissions in response to what the administration describes as the university's failure to eliminate anti-Semitism and so-called racist diversity initiatives. The administration has focused especially on international students and staff, linked to protests over the Israel-Hamas war. In response, Harvard has acknowledged past incidents of anti-Semitism and said it is taking clear steps to address the issue. However, university leaders argue that the government's demands, such as auditing the political beliefs of students and faculty, overstep constitutional boundaries. Former Harvard President Lawrence Summers warned that the policy shift would disproportionately harm Jewish and Israeli students, stating that revoking their access contradicts the very principles the government claims to defend. The university is among several U.S. institutions under scrutiny, but has emerged as a leading opponent of federal overreach. Harvard condemned the revocation of its Student and Exchange Visitor Program, SEVP, certification as illegal, and reaffirmed its commitment to international scholars, who represent over a quarter of its student body. In total, Harvard has nearly 10,000 international academics, with 6,793 enrolled students from more than 140 countries in the current academic year. Many of these students now face deep uncertainty, including those already enrolled and newcomers preparing to start in the fall. The university has implemented some administrative changes, including renaming its diversity office in partial compliance with federal requests. Yet the government maintains that Harvard fosters a hostile environment, accusing it of promoting anti-Israel sentiment and ignoring Jewish student safety, while notably failing to acknowledge Muslim or Arab students' concerns. Last month, 2 internal task force reports found that both Jewish and Muslim students felt unsafe, alienated, and censored on campus during the last academic year. In response, Harvard began implementing a range of recommended reforms. Despite these efforts, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem has accused the university of perpetuating an unsafe campus culture. She warned other institutions may face similar penalties if they don't comply with federal demands, signaling Harvard is being used as an example. The crackdown has stunned students and faculty. Some view it as a political vendetta, including Summers, who called it extortion and an abuse of power rooted in a clash over ideology. For many students, the decision is personal. 18-year-old Jared from New Zealand, recently accepted to Harvard, said hearing the news felt like a punch to the gut. He was in the middle of his visa application when he learned of the administration's move and is now considering online alternatives. "I'm just trying to focus on what I can control," Jared said. Current international students are also worried. Carl Molden, an Austrian undergraduate, is currently abroad and unsure if he'll be allowed to return. "Everyone's panicking," he said, describing a flurry of messages among anxious peers. International students at Harvard University say they're facing deep uncertainty as a federal order threatens their place at one of the world's top institutions. For many, the risk of losing access to their education is more than an inconvenience. It's a potential derailment of lifelong goals. "Many of us have worked our entire lives to get here," said Carl Molden, an Austrian junior. "Now we're stuck waiting to see if we'll be forced to transfer and deal with visa complications." Some students are concerned about losing access to Harvard's financial aid, while others worry about completing summer internships. Molden believes international students are being caught in a political crossfire. "We're being used as pawns in a bigger struggle between democracy and authoritarianism," he said, comparing the current political tactics in the U.S. to what he's seen in European history. The decision has sparked broad concern across the academic community. Faculty warn that removing thousands of international students would severely weaken Harvard's research and academic programs, and by extension, damage the reputation of American higher education. Economics professor Jason Furman described the policy as horrendous on every level, warning that it could strip U.S. universities of their innovation edge. "Higher education is one of America's greatest exports and a pillar of our global influence. This needs to be reversed before the damage becomes irreversible." Other faculty members echoed the warning, suggesting that if the policy stands, research labs could be emptied and entire projects halted. International allies are also voicing concern. Australia's ambassador to the U.S. said the decision would be troubling for the many Australian students enrolled at Harvard, and that his office is providing consular support. Harvard's chapter of the American Association of University Professors issued a forceful condemnation, calling the federal action an unconstitutional attack on international students and scholars. "These students are integral members of our academic community," the group stated. Harvard President Alan Garber reinforced this sentiment, assuring affected students that they are valued and will be supported. "You are our classmates, our colleagues, and our partners in the work of this institution," he said. "Harvard is stronger because of you."